Each Power Rangers season has its own unique cockpit with all kinds of cool and different concepts. Some of them were taken straight from the original Super Sentai footage, but in a few seasons, the production team came up with their own designs. In this video, we're diving into those original cockpits and comparing them to the ones from Super Sentai. So, let's get started. Number 8. We've got Power Rangers Cosmic Fury. This season came out in 2023 and only adapted Zord footage from Q-Ranger. Since Cosmic Fury used original Ranger suits, it was impossible to reuse the cockpit footage from its Super Sentai counterpart, so they had to create their own. Interestingly, the cockpit setup in Cosmic Fury is quite similar to the one in Q-Ranger. Both are basically small pods with a single chair and a controller on each armrest. But in Cosmic Fury, they gave everything a makeover. The background, the seat, and the armrests all got redesigned. One big change you'll notice is the new control panel right in front of the seat. The cockpits are actually located inside the spherical section of their Zords, and even when they combine into the Megazord, the Rangers still pilot them from their own individual cockpits. Overall, it's pretty simple and I think it's really cool. We'll go through them from the ones that are pretty similar to the ones that are really different, so let's jump into the next segment. Power Rangers Dino Charge. This season uses a standing cockpit setup just like its Super Sentai counterpart. In Ryusoulger, the cockpit is super flashy. It features the team logo, the Zord's name, and some decorations in the background. However, the Dino Charge version tones it down a bit. It's simpler and cleaner, showing only the Zord logo behind the Rangers and beneath their feet. Another feature retained in this version is that the Rangers must insert their morphers as keys to pilot their Zords. Interestingly, the Dino Charge Rangers receive upgraded suits while inside the cockpit. There are two modes, Dino Drive mode and Dino Super Drive mode, but the Rangers don't have to use them. They can still pilot the Zords without these modes. This cockpit appears in every Zord and Megazord formation and is used by all the Rangers without exception. Number 6. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, Season 2. This season actually marked the beginning of original cockpit designs. This is similar to what happened in Cosmic Fury earlier, where Saban had to build their own cockpit set because they couldn't use the original cockpit footage. That's mainly because the show still used the old suits instead of adapting the Die Ranger ones. The cockpit they created was a shared one, and it only appeared during Megazord mode. Everything looked really simple. In fact, there was only a single controller operated by the Red Ranger. This was quite different from the Die Ranger version, where you could see an energy orb, kind of like a crystal ball, used to control their Zords. Interestingly, some of this cockpit footage was still used in Power Rangers, but only for Tommy Oliver, the White Ranger. That's because he was the only Ranger directly adapted from his Super Sentai counterpart. Dino Fury vs Ryusoulger. In Ryusoulger, the cockpits have this kind of sacred vibe. The room has mirrors, glowing lights, and it just feels mystical. There aren't any weird decorations around, but the cockpit does feel a bit cramped. What's cool is that even when they form the Megazord, they still stay in their own individual cockpits. Now, let's check out what Power Rangers Dino Fury did. Their cockpits look way more modern and a bit high-tech, with a brighter room and a more spacious layout. That goes for both their solo cockpits and the one they share in Megazord mode. Both of these seasons have that standing cockpit setup, but the vibe between them is totally different. Honestly, I'm more into the Super Sentai version, but what about you guys? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Next, Power Rangers Samurai. Not only has its own original cockpit, but this season also introduced a lot of new elements specifically for the cockpit footage. So, let's take a look at the original Super Sentai version first. As you'd expect, it looks traditional, with kanji symbols and a samurai logo in the background. It's clearly rooted in Japanese culture, which makes sense, since the whole theme is based on Japanese samurai. Now, in the Power Rangers version, they went with a more modern, Western-style design. The setup is larger, giving the Rangers more space between them. As mentioned earlier, this season also comes with some original extra features. When entering the cockpit, their suits undergo an enhancement. There are 3 modes: Mega Mode, Super Mega Mode, and Mega Shark Mode. Actually, there's one more called Shogun Mode, and it's totally wild. The swords they insert into the cockpit were also never seen in the Super Sentai version. They were made just for this season. Overall, I think this cockpit fits really well with the Power Rangers vibe we've come to know over the years. It's just a shame that this unique design from Shinkenger didn't get used. Next up, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Season 3. This one's actually pretty similar to what we saw back in Season 2. There were 2 main Megazords again, so let's start with the Shogun Zord. In the US version, the Rangers had a pretty advanced cockpit. There were some indicator lights, and you could even see Billy working on the machinery inside. Actually, it looked a lot like the one from the Dino Zord in Season 1, especially the outer layout. Meanwhile, in the Japanese version, there was no cockpit at all. That's because the Rangers became the Zords themselves, so the Megazord didn't need a cockpit in the first place. The actual cockpit that appeared was for the Ninja Megazord. Each Ranger had a white crystal to control their Zord. The background only showed their individual logos and some floating white mist. Even after they combined into the Megazord, the cockpit stayed exactly the same, so there was never a moment when all the Rangers were in a shared cockpit together. On the other hand, the Power Rangers version of Ninja Megazord cockpit wasn't too different from the one we saw with the Shogun Zord. It still looked pretty high-tech, with electrical panels all around. Number 2. Power Rangers Lightspeed Rescue. This time, we're not talking about the main Megazord, we're focusing on the Max Solar Zord. In the original Super Sentai version, this Zord didn't have a cockpit at all, because it operated entirely on its own using AI. But in Power Rangers, things were a bit different. Max Solar Zord became the personal Zord of the Titanium Ranger, a completely original Ranger who didn't exist in Super Sentai. Now here's a look at the cockpit of the Max Solar Zord. It looks pretty sleek, just one seat with tons of buttons and controls everywhere. Well, it's a cool setup and fits really well with the whole Lightspeed rescue theme. Unfortunately, the Titanium Ranger was rarely shown piloting this Zord, partly due to budget constraints. Before we jump into the last segment, let's quickly mention some cockpits from the movies. This is the Power Rangers 1995 movie. Power Rangers movie 2017 looks pretty dramatic with its alien tech. And this one's from Power Rangers Once and Always, which came out in 2023. Here's the Turbo movie version compared to the series version. By the way, this footage was also used for the series opening. And at number 1, we've got Power Rangers Ninja Steel. So Ninja Steel and its Super Sentai counterpart, Ninja, have cockpit designs that are completely different, especially in how the Rangers actually control their Zords. Here's how it looks in Ninja. The cockpit is a box-shaped room with traditional Japanese-style decorations on the walls. One Ranger sits in the center, while the others stand and hold their swords, almost like they're lifting a stretcher or something. The 6th Ranger's cockpit is also pretty unique. It's just a single seat with a bison ornament in front of him. He controls his Zord kind of like he's riding a bull at a rodeo, using a built-in rope. In Power Rangers, they changed all of that. Once again, they went with the classic standing cockpit setup for all the Zords. The whole thing is mostly white, with a giant team logo in the background that's hard to miss. This same cockpit design is also used for the Ninja Blaze Megazord, even though in Ninja, that Megazord didn't have a cockpit at all. And yeah, the Rangers get a slight suit upgrade while inside the cockpit. More modern, with that sleek American-style polish. So, what about you guys? Which version do you prefer? Ninja Steel or Ninja? Alright guys, that's it. So what do you think? Should these original Power Rangers cockpit designs even be a thing? Let me know in the comments. And as always, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any future videos. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you next time.